Let's chew over all this. And Mehdi, it's interesting because the people in the administration are saying we will follow the law, we're going to abide by law, but President Trump is out there saying that very clearly that he's going to target cultural centers in Iran, possibly, if Iran hits the U.S. And according to international law, including a UN Security Council resolution the U.S. voted yes on, that would be against the law, that would be a war crime.
Including the 1954 Hague Convention on the Protection of Cultural Property that the U.S. is a signatory to. You say officials have been saying, oh, you know, we're not following this. They've also been lying in public, too. One of them came on your show yesterday, Mike Pompeo. He did the rounds of the Sunday shows where he basically, 1984 Orwell, don't believe, the party requests you not to believe your eyes and ears. He says to us, go look at the tweet. He didn't say attack cultural sites. As you pointed out to him, that's exactly what he said. Kellyanne Conway today goes one step further in the kind of gaslighting Olympics, saying it was a hypothetical. It's not a hypothetical. He said we will hit 52 sites, including cultural sites, very fast and very hard. That's a war crime. And the irony is that Trump supporters are saying Qasem Soleimani was a war criminal, that's why he had to be killed, and that's why we shouldn't shed any tears. Here's Trump basically agitating to be a war criminal. He did it when he ran for president. He said, we're going to kill the families of terrorists. Do you remember that? We're going to take out the families of terrorist suspects, women and children. Maya Angelou said it best. When someone tells you who they are, believe them the first time. This is who he is.
He did run on a pro-war crime policy position in a way.
Steal the oil, kill the terrorist family suspects, and now he's like, we'll attack cultural sites.
CNN's Daniel Dale points out this seems to be a familiar cycle. Quote, number one, President Trump says inflammatory thing. Number two, Trump officials say he didn't say it. He didn't say what people are saying he actually said. Number three, Trump says he totally said it, and he meant it. It's kind of a challenging position for people in the administration. They go out on a limb, and he saws it out from behind them.
That's not uncommon. That's very true. I think in this case, there are one of two things could have happened. Either he was presented with a list of important sites in Iran and looks at all of them as potential targets, even if they were not part of an actual target deck. Or, remember, we're talking about someone whose idea of culture may be very different than an Iranian scholar. So it might be that he's talking about TV stations or sports stadiums or things that, a TV station would actually be considered critical infrastructure, and not talking about things that we would consider, like ancient sites or libraries.
Let's be clear, not a TV station full of journalists.
Right, a TV station is full of civilians. Cultural places are full of civilians. He's talking about killing civilians. Okay, and that is something
that was just her interpretation.
The TV station would be on.
Well, I mean, just think of the actors that destroy cultural sites. We're talking about the Taliban, ISIS, the Chinese Communist Party. This is not a club that the United States should aspire to be in, even as an empty threat, okay? But I think what the president is trying to do here is he's trying to establish what we call escalation dominance. He's trying to threaten them with such severe punishment that they're scared into not retaliating for us killing Soleimani. That's a very risky strategy to do, even when you have an administration that's functioning well, that's communicating well, that's messaging well, and none of those things are present here. So we should probably dial back the rhetoric.
And Jen, two leading Senate Democrats, Chuck Schumer and Bob Menendez, called on President Trump to declassify the intelligence behind the drone strike. Kellyanne Conway was asked today if the president will do that. Take a listen.
So yes, they will be briefed, but they also should calm down and celebrate, not denigrate, the fact that the world's greatest terrorist, who is single-handedly responsible for the deaths of hundreds of Americans and the injuries of thousands of others, they should celebrate, not denigrate, that fact.
What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, just to echo what my friend here said next to me, I mean, they are lying to the American public. This is not the first time they have done that.
Well, they said President Trump never called for the bombing of cultural centers, and he has now done it twice.
Correct.
Right.
And they've also been misleading, or one could suggest they've been misleading about why they did this strike to begin with. And they don't have a record to stand on to begin with of being honest with the American public. Look, I think Congress is doing what they should be doing, which is asking for the evidence, asking for the backup that led to why they took this action. Because we can all agree Soleimani is a very bad guy. He was a very bad guy. He did terrible things. But the question is, was this the right in the national interest of the United States? And right now, even the forces, the U.S. forces who are in Iraq, are not fighting ISIS. They're protecting the bases. That's not in the interest of the United States. There's a fraying of our alliances in the region. That's not in the interest of the United States. The fact that diplomatic and military personnel around the world are on alert, that's not in the interest of the United States. That's why Congress is asking these questions, and I think they have every right to.
Do you think Kellyanne has a point, though, about Democrats aren't doing enough to celebrate the killing of this horrible person?
I don't think there should be necessarily celebrations over the death of anyone, but I do know that Qasem Soleimani was a bad guy, you know,
Right.
and taking him off the battlefield was something that every president since he's been active has talked about and just not seen the conditions for. Now instead of chasing him, we knew what he was going to do, and we were able to get him in advance. First time that's really been an option. But remember that the intelligence downgrade is not super easy. This is a compartmentalized intelligence report.
To release the information.
Right,
behind
so
it.
anyone, the Intel committee's folks and the Intel reps on the Hill will have had access to the original intelligence already and should have been able to an extent to brief their seniors.
But this whole thing about bad guys, I get it, but Kellyanne Conway works for a man who brags about his friendship with Kim Jong-un, right? You can't take lessons from them on who is and isn't a bad guy. Trump has a record of mourning the deaths of the people like Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi. He's on record saying, I wish they were still alive running their countries. So the last people who are going to lecture anyone on bad guys is these guys. The criteria is not bad guy for taking people out. As for the imminent threat and the intelligence, we now know, thanks to the Washington Post, thanks to Josh's papers reporting, that Pompeo was calling for this for months. And now that we're told, no, because it was an imminent attack. Well, where is the imminent attack? And how does killing Soleimani stop an imminent attack? Was he wearing a suicide vest when they killed him?
I think we're going to have a historical debate over whether or not their justification makes sense and was honest. But right now we have to deal with where we are, and where we are is a very dangerous, volatile situation with thousands of Americans, not to mention millions of Iraqis and Middle Eastern citizens under direct threat from the action that we took. And we have a responsibility to deal with that threat in a comprehensive way, and that's what we don't see.
And President Trump threatening to sanction Iraq if Iraq actually kicks out U.S. troops. Everyone's